Ever want to try a new surfboard, but don't feel comfortable spending the money without knowing how the board will really work? In this series, we're going to break down the right purpose, conditions, and sizing for each of the new boards in the 2023 Lost Surfboards lineup. We're going to take an in-depth look on the personal touches Matt Biolas has incorporated into each board and the specific reasons for those fine-tuned tweaks. I'm Ryan.
I'm Kenny.
We're with CatalystShop.com, and today we're going to review the all-new RNF Retro from Lost Surfboards. So yeah, Kenny, let's get into this, man. Let's talk. This was, I think it was 2018. Quickly became all of our favorite boards, I think. I was probably the last one to get one. I think you turned me on to it.
Pretty much.
And it was springtime, I believe, and the waves were super average-ish, 3 to 4.
Average, pretty fun for us.
We had a good string of swell to try this out in, and it quickly became a favorite. I think you arrived here as the twin fin?
Twin. Well, it's one of those boards that you look at it and you think, wow, this is like somewhat of a groveler, kind of like a retro fish. But I hopped on it as a quad at first, and I liked it, but it felt a little stiff for me. I'm a lighter guy, $145, so I then switched to the Power Twins, and it worked great. And that's when I referred it to you and the rest of the guys at the shop, and it turned from one of those boards that was kind of optimistic into one of our best sellers overnight.
Yeah, and I rode it as a quad. Specifically, this board, it was the split keel from FCS or the controller from Futures. Works great in this. If you're, I'd say like 170 plus pounds would be the best.
It's kind of half and half. If you're like a power surfer, sharp, critical, high-speed turns, then you're going to want like a quad setup. For me, I'm more of a flowy, skatey style, so that's why I like the twin, more of a free feel.
You just touched on something. So the differences between this one and the original we were just talking about was we lined them up next to each other, and you could really see a difference, or so at this angle. Kenny, you brought it up. It was back here, but the back third is more of an elliptical. I don't want to say narrower, but it's definitely more of an elliptical design. So it looks like it's going to have more of that top to bottom ability than the first one.
Yep, a little bit sharper.
Yeah,
control.
Yeah, and if there was a downside to the first one, the only thing I could say is like a little more bowly, punchy waves. Yep. It kind of felt a little. Yep. It's hard to kind of get in those corners right. So I think what they've done will improve on that. Yeah. So the other thing we noticed right away was the.
I mean, most noticeable difference is the forward foam placed in this one.
Yeah, it seemed like it creeped up to about here. And on the flip side, the narrower nose.
Yep.
So side by side.
They kind of added some foam right under the chest for like paddle ability, I would think. And then towards the top 12 inches of the nose, it narrows. Yeah. And I think the reason that they did that is to kind of get that nose out of the way in those, sharp, high-speed, critical, pockets that you're talking about.
Yeah, so again, improving upon the first model with, the ability for tighter radius turns, better performance and punchier waves, and even with the tail design, probably hold in better at higher speeds as well and better waves. So basically we're looking at is kind of a souped-up version of the first generation.
Yep.
While still retaining its user-friendliness with the foam, as you mentioned, the chest, which you can visibly see. And then also, the tail rocker was lowered right about through this area, which will keep that drive and speed as well.
Yep.
So, still user-friendly, but even better than the first one.
Yep. And it covers a pretty wide variety of conditions as well. Looking at it, like we touched on, you would think it's more of a groveler or kind of like a small wave board, but the aspects that they kind of tweaked from the 2018 version of this board, with that narrower nose, more pulled in tail. This one goes from a board that can surf, neat waist high Florida stuff, all the way up to, punchy overhead bowly stuff if you prefer that kind.
Yeah, for sure.
If we're going to talk about purpose behind this board, what comes to mind is, a high performance board for someone who's kind of like me, someone that wants to ride something fast, snappy, sharp, but doesn't want to ride like the standard driver, the standard sub driver. Wants to step outside the box a little.
Yeah, Kenny, you make a good point about wanting to ride a high-performance board, but not be on a driver or sub-driver necessarily, especially for
or just a standard thruster in general.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, someone might like myself. If you're not a super light-footed guy, sometimes it's hard to get going in, waist-high, mushy waves. This board can definitely do it. At the same time, if I want to pack it in the bag and go on a trip, I would have absolutely no reservations about
Yep.
that. Great board for that. So a great overall surfboard
Yep.
with a wider base.
I also say purpose too when you're thinking of this board, because sizing comes into, purpose. This is a board that if you're looking for the groveler, you can go bigger. If you're looking for something snappier, you can ride it more so, your high performance dims.
Right. Yeah, closer to your sub-driver dims.
That's like me. Like my number is 26 liters. I know that I can hop from board to board, and 26 is gonna, work for me in a wide variety of waves. I can ride this board in 26 liters, and if I want it for like a smaller day or a smaller set of waves, I can go up to 27 and a quarter.
Yep. So if we learn anything from the first generation of sport and looking at this one, I think again we have an outstanding overall surfboard with a wider platform that can do it all.
Yep. It's one of those ones that kind of touches every key point that you need in a good board.
It really does, yeah. So, if you're living average waves, good waves, if you're looking to take it on a trip, I would highly recommend giving it a shot. Whether it's just mix it up, something different.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just want to hop on something new. And that'd be a great way to do it. Would be get on this guy.
And it's one of those ones you can't just look at it and think this is, a groveler or a small wave board. It's one of those that it really performs differently once you hop on it.
Yeah, even the first one with, how that one was done with.
Yeah.
I used to tell people, you don't feel that tail.
Yeah.
That thing it's knifey. I mean,
Yeah.
It feels like all this width disappears in the water, and it really does turn tight.
I mean, you look at the name, the RNF Retro. It is a retro board. It has retro-inspired aspects of the board, but it also has modern-day high-performance tweaks, which makes it that great board that it is.
Yeah. With cool looks.
Yep.
Always helps.